Please co-sign the $65,000 for my dream wedding, my sister begged. I gave in. She vanished overseas. Laughing, then my hidden claws sent collectors straight to her. You know that feeling when your gut screams run, but your heart is still whispering family? That's exactly where I was, standing on my parents' dock, about to be blindsided by a betrayal so raw, it would shatter everything I thought I knew about love and loyalty. It was a September sunset, bleeding orange across the lake, turning the water into liquid copper, but something about that family gathering felt utterly rehearsed, like everyone had received a script except me. Marin. Shaylin's voice cut through the quiet, deliberately bright, practically chirping. Look, what we brought. I turned to see my sister and her fiancé, Rory, approaching, a glinting bottle of champagne catching the fading light. Their smiles were wide, almost too wide, and they didn't quite reach their eyes. Behind them, Mom and Dad hovered near the shore, exchanging glances that sent shivers of warning straight down my spine. Quite a sunset, Rory commented, his polished charm on full display. He was dressed far too formally for our usual lakeside get-togethers, his crisp blue button-down a stark contrast to my casual sweater and jeans. Perfect evening for an announcement, Shaylin added, threading her arm through his, the expensive label of the champagne bottle swinging pointedly in her other hand. Cold dread coiled in my stomach. An announcement? Mom and Dad drifted closer, their practiced casualness doing nothing to soothe my prickling skin. Dad's hands were clasped behind his back, his tell I knew when he was nervous about something. Mom's smile was too bright, too eager, almost frantic. Well, Shaylin began, looking up at Rory with a gaze of utterly rehearsed adoration. We've been thinking about wedding venues. The words stretched between us like a tripwire. I've known my sister my entire life, and I recognized that particular inflection. She was building up to something that was going to cost someone money. Rory, with a flourish, produced a leather portfolio from behind his back. We've got some preliminary plans to share. The portfolio opened to reveal professional renderings of an elaborate lakeside wedding. String lights draped between trees, a floating altar, glass pavilions shimmering along the shoreline. We want to get married right. Here Shaylin announced, where we grew up, where all our memories are. My stomach sank as I studied the drawings. The sheer scope of construction required hitting me like a physical blow. That's ambitious. 65,000, Rory stated smoothly, as if mentioning the price of lunch. All-inclusive package from Lakeside Dreams Events. They're the best in the business. The silence that followed was heavy, thick with expectation. I watched a muscle twitch in Dad's jaw. The bank turned us down, Shaylin said finally, her voice small, almost a whisper. Something about Rory's startup being too new for a loan that size. And there it was. Then, as if on cue, 5 pairs of eyes swung to me, a synchronized predatory stare that almost made me laugh. A hysterical, broken kind of laugh. We need you to co-sign, Shaylin continued, just until Rory's next round of funding comes through. Suddenly, the lake breeze felt like ice against my skin. I wrapped my arms around myself, remembering the last 3 times I'd helped with family finances. The business loan for Dad's failed restaurant expansion. The consolidation loan for Mom's runaway credit card debt. The down payment for Shaylin's first car. No, I said quietly, the word feeling utterly foreign on my tongue. I can't. Just like clockwork, Mom's face crumpled, a practiced performance designed to twist the knife of guilt. What happened to my daughters being there for each other? Marin, Dad's voice carried that familiar note of disappointment, heavy with judgment. You're the successful one. You have a responsibility to help your sister. I'd do it for you in a heartbeat, Shaylin added, right on schedule, the words dripping with false sincerity. I closed my eyes briefly, remembering the spreadsheet hidden in my desk drawer. The one tracking every loan that was never repaid. Every favor that became an obligation. Every single time I put my own financial security at risk because Family guilt felt stronger than common sense. I need to think about it, I finally managed knowing. It wasn't the answer they wanted, but unable to give more. The sunset had faded completely now, leaving the lake dark and still. Just like the surface of my coffee this morning, when I first saw their group text about an important family dinner. Just like the quiet in my car during the drive here, when I told myself this time would be different. I looked at their faces, Mom's theatrical distress, Dad's stern disapproval, Shaylin's calculated vulnerability, Rory's bland confidence. They were so certain of the outcome. So sure that I'd cave to pressure like I always had. But something had shifted in me. Maybe it was the way they coordinated this ambush. Maybe it was the sickening realization that they saw me not as a daughter or sister, but as a walking, talking solution to all their problems. I'll let you know tomorrow, I added, my voice steadier than I felt. The lake lapped at the dock posts, a gentle rhythm that used to comfort me as a child. Now it sounded like a warning, a reminder that some tides, once turned, can never flow backward. I caught Mom's eye across the growing darkness. For just a moment, I saw something flicker there, not concern for my well-being or guilt over their manipulation, but fear. Fear that this time, their safety net might just say no. Good. It was about time they were afraid of losing something. Because I was finally afraid of the right thing. What would happen to me if I said yes one more time? The morning after our lakeside confrontation, my home office felt like a fortress. Spreadsheets glowed on dual monitors, each cell a reminder of financial wounds that never healed. I'd tracked every emergency loan, every temporary bailout since I landed my first real job 12 years ago. Dad's restaurant expansion, $45,000. Mom's credit card consolidation, $32,000. Shaylin's car down payment, $12,000. The numbers blurred together, a decade of one-way generosity wrapped in familial obligation. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, the cursor blinking in the cell where I might add. Shaylin's dream wedding, $65,000. My phone buzzed. Tova's name appeared on screen, right on schedule. Tell me you haven't signed anything, she said without preamble, the background noise suggesting she was at the courthouse. Probably between cases. Not yet, I replied, minimizing the spreadsheet. But they're expecting an answer today. Good, she shot back. Because I found something interesting about your future. Brother-in-law startup. Papers shuffled on her end. 3 fraud complaints filed with the state medical board. His revolutionary health monitoring system appears to be vaporware wrapped in buzzwords. My stomach clenched. That tracked with the bank's loan rejection. Marin. Tova's voice softened, that tone she reserves for difficult truths. This isn't just about a wedding anymore. This is a pattern, and you're the safety net they keep jumping into. 2 hours later, I was sitting across from Tova at Asheville Coffee Traders, watching steam rise from an untouched Americano. The cafe's exposed brick walls and salvaged wood tables usually comforted me, but today they felt like witnesses to my moral compromise. Tova slid a legal document across the table. It's called a protective default clause. If they miss 2 payments or attempt to transfer assets before repayment, ownership of the lakeside property transfers to you. I can't trick my own family, I protested, but my hand already reached for the document. They're already tricking you. Tova's dark eyes held mine. The question is whether you'll let them do it again. The clause was elegant in its simplicity. 3 paragraphs of carefully worded protection, buried in standard loan language. My family would retain the lake house unless they defaulted or tried to sell before repaying me. It was insurance, not malice. But my hands shook as I folded the document into my bag. That evening, our living room became a stage for the final act. Mom perched on the edge of the sofa. Dad stood by the fireplace, and Shaylin and Rory shared the love seat, practically radiating self-satisfaction. The loan documents spread across our coffee table like a trap waiting to spring. This clause here, I said, pointing to the relevant section, it's just standard protection for co-signers. Mom waved her hand dismissively. Oh, All that legal mumbo-jumbo. We're family. Darling. Exactly why we should do this properly, I countered, keeping my voice steady. Professional, the voice I use in board meetings when emotions run high. They signed without reading, passing the pen like a relay baton. Shaylin didn't even pause at the clause that could cost her parents their lake house. Her signature flowed across the page with practiced confidence, the kind that comes from never facing consequences. A week later, during a wedding planning session at the lake house, Rory's laptop screen caught my eye. An email confirmation, one-way tickets to Costa Rica, departing 2 days after the wedding. When he noticed my gaze, the screen snapped shut. Shaylin's laugh turned nervous, high-pitched. Just dreaming about honeymoon options, she said quickly, too quickly. That night, I dreamed of drowning in spreadsheet cells filled with red numbers. I woke gasping, sheets twisted around me like constraints. The next morning found me at Mountain View Cemetery, kneeling beside grandmother's grave. The mist clung to the marble headstone where her name was carved with the same precision she applied to her life's ledgers. Am I doing the right thing? I whispered to her memory. She taught me about compound interest and emergency funds while Mom taught Shaylin about credit card rewards. My phone chirped with a message from Shaylin. You're the best sister anyone could ask for. Can't wait to see you at the cake tasting. Back home, I opened my desk drawer and slid the signed documents into a folder labeled Family Protection. The label felt both true and false. Protection for my family? Or protection from them? The morning sun caught the lake photo on my wall, the same view where this all began. The water looked deceptively calm, hiding currents that could pull you under if you're not careful. I thought about grandmother's favorite saying, love doesn't mean setting yourself on fire to keep others warm. She'd understand this clause. This necessary armor against the people who should never make armor necessary. The folder closed with a soft finality. Sometimes protection looks like betrayal from the wrong angle. But from where I sat, watching the sun climb over my carefully ordered world, it looked like survival. The lakeside wedding was a masterpiece of denial. Crystal champagne flutes caught the sunset, transforming ordinary light into diamond fragments across the manicured lawn. Every detail I'd orchestrated over the past month stood perfect and precise. White garden roses dripping from suspended copper arches, hand-calligraphed place cards, vintage crystal borrowed from 3 different antique shops. I checked my phone. 5:47 p.m. The ceremony started in 13 minutes and I'd just finished handling a minor crisis with the string quartet's electrical setup. Mom floated past, in her mother-of-the-bride glory, accepting compliments from guests while I wrestled with extension cords. Isn't it magnificent? She gushed to the Hendersons, our longtime neighbors. Shaylin has such exquisite taste. I bit back the correction that I had selected every detail, right down to the imported Italian linens that cost more than my first car. But that's not the story being told today. The ceremony unfolded like a perfectly rehearsed play. Shaylin emerged in her custom gown, another line item in my spreadsheets, looking exactly like the princess our parents always treated her as. When she reached the altar, Rory's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. His gaze slid to me just for a moment, heavy with something that might have been guilt, or perhaps a challenge. During the reception, I managed the vendors and timeline while Mom and Dad held court at the head table. Shaylin's toast brought tears to every eye except mine. To family, she said, crystal glass raised. Hi. Who stands by you no matter what? Who lifts you up when you fall? Who never keeps score? Her voice caught perfectly on the last words. Especially my amazing sister, Marin, who made all this possible. The crowd awed. I raised my glass mechanically, catching Rory's steady stare across the tent. He knew that I knew. And he knew that I wouldn't make a scene. Not here. Not now. Later, while directing the cleanup crew, I discovered the card in their honeymoon suite. It had fallen behind a dresser, probably knocked there in their haste to pack. The envelope read, Bon Voyage in Mom's looping script. Inside, a handwritten note. Enjoy your fresh start, darlings. We'll handle everything here. My hands shook as I photographed the card, then the travel documents. Scattered across the desk. One-way tickets, not to Costa Rica as originally shown, but to Panama. Bank statements for accounts I'd never seen. A real estate brochure for a beachfront property. Through the open window, I heard Mom and Dad on the terrace below. They should be safely away by morning, Mom said. I told Gloria to wait until after the brunch, but you know how Shaylin gets. When she's excited. The important thing is they're clear before any questions start, Dad replied. The temporary relocation story should hold up long enough. I sank into the honeymoon suites plush armchair, the truth settling like lead in my stomach. They all knew. Every single one of them knew. The next morning's wedding brunch became a masterclass in performance art. Shaylin and Rory's seats remained conspicuously empty as Mom wove her way through concerned guests. Oh, they were just two. Excited to wait, she trilled. Young love, you know how it is. My phone buzzed with Shaylin's text, taking off sooner. The start of our adventure. Love you, sis. XOXO. 3 hours later, her Instagram lit up with a sunset photo, two silhouettes on a beach, drinks in hand. The caption read, debt-free and destiny-bound. New life, no looking back. I found my parents in the lake house kitchen, methodically packing leftover wedding cake into Tupperware containers. The facade finally cracked when I showed them the Instagram post. There. Young Mom said, her voice sharp with defensive anger. They deserve a fresh start, away from all this pressure. Pressure. I laughed, the sound hollow. You mean consequences? Dad didn't look up from his task. The bank won't actually come after us. These things have a way of working themselves out. The bank won't have to, I said quietly. We'll see what happens next. That evening, I sat across from Tova at our usual table at Asheville Coffee Traders. My hands wrapped around a cooling mug as the story spilled out. I knew something was coming, I said, but the coordination of it all. They played their parts perfectly. Tova agreed, her dark eyes fierce with protective anger. But so did you. She was right. While they were planning their great escape, I was building my own safety net. Alex, my accountant friend, sat to my left already, sketching out the tax implications. Karen, my real estate agent, took notes on her phone about property values and transfer procedures. These were my people, chosen family who showed up with spreadsheets and solutions instead of guilt and demands. The first loan payment is due in 30 days, Alex said, pulling up a calendar. Want to bet how that's gonna go? I marked the date in my phone. September 15th, 30 days to prepare for the inevitable default. You're not wrong for protecting yourself, Tova said softly. Sometimes love looks like letting people face their own consequences. I thought about grandmother again. About her lessons on compound interest and responsibility. About how sometimes the hardest part of love is knowing when to stop cushioning the fall. My phone lit up with another Instagram notification. Shaylin and Rory on a yacht, champagne glasses raised to the camera. Below, Mom had commented, living your best life. So proud. I closed the app and opened my calendar instead. The 15th of September glowed on the screen. A countdown to the moment when facades crumble and truth demands its due. Now, I said, squaring my shoulders, it begins. On the first payment day, the First National Bank lobby gleamed with polished marble and old money. Restraint. My heels clicked a steady rhythm as I followed Mr. Davidson, senior loan officer, to his office. The leather portfolio in my hands contained every document, every piece of evidence. Organized with the same precision I once used to plan Shaylin's perfect wedding. I appreciate you meeting with me on such short notice, I said, settling into the chair across from his desk. He adjusted his reading glasses. Your message mentioned concerns about the Halstead-Crawford wedding loan. Yes. I opened the portfolio, removing a carefully tabbed stack of papers. I'm activating The default protection clause, effective immediately. His eyebrows lifted. In 15 years of banking, I doubt he'd seen many people walk in voluntarily to trigger their own loan default. But then most people don't spend months preparing for their family's betrayal. I laid out the evidence methodically. Flight records showing the one-way tickets to Panama. Bank statements for the hidden accounts. Property listings in foreign jurisdictions. The Instagram posts, downloaded and timestamped, revealing their true location. With each new document, Davidson's expression shifted from professional concern to genuine shock. I've never seen someone so prepared for this type of situation, he said, finally. I've had practice expecting the worst. I pulled out the final document, the protection clause Tova helped me draft. As you can see, Section 4.3 specifically addresses fraudulent intent and unauthorized relocation of funds. I'm exercising my right to initiate immediate default proceedings. Davidson checked his watch, made a note. Default activation recorded at 9:47 a.m., the 15th of September. He looked up. Are you certain about this, Miss Halstead? Family matters can be complicated. They certainly can be, I agreed, closing the portfolio with a quiet snap. That's precisely why I'm here. The first text arrived before I reached my car. Mom, the bank just called. What have you done? I started the engine, letting the subsequent messages pile up unread. By the time I reached my office, there was a voicemail from Dad. What have you done to this family? His voice trembled with barely controlled rage. Your mother is beside herself. Call us immediately. I forwarded the voicemail to Tova, adding it to our growing documentation file. My phone buzzed again, a news alert about Rory's startup. Crawford tech investors pull out amid fraud concerns. I allowed myself a small smile. Tova's timing with the SEC tip was perfect. Shaylin's Instagram story appeared next, a sunset beach photo overlaid with text. My own sister betrayed me. Blood isn't always thicker than water. #heartbroken, #family betrayal. The pressure built throughout the week. Pastor Mike left 3 messages about healing family rifts through prayer. The Hendersons crossed to the other side of Harris Teeter when they spotted me in the produce section. Mrs. Carlton, my 3rd grade teacher, cornered me outside the post office. Sweetheart, surely there's a better way to handle this, she said, patting my arm. Family is everything. I met her eyes steadily. Yes, it is. That's exactly why I'm doing this. The doorbell rang at 8:15 p.m. on Saturday. I knew it was them before I opened the door. Mom's perfume carried on the evening air. You will fix this. Whatever point you're trying to make. Dad's voice was steel wrapped in silk. Curtis. Mom cut him off, already pushing past me into the foyer. Honey, we know you're upset, but this vindictiveness, it's not you. I closed the door, quietly, turning to face them. You're right. This isn't like me. The old me would have covered for Shaylin again. Written another check. Kept another secret. We're still your parents, Mom said. Tears gathering. Everything we've done has been to protect this family. Parents protect their children, I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my chest. You protected Shaylin from consequences. Who protected me? The silence stretched between us until Dad broke it. The lake. House is being listed Monday. A quick sale, very discreet. I assume that satisfies whatever revenge you're seeking. My phone vibrated right on schedule. Karen's name flashed on the screen. Marin? I answered. The lake house just hit the pre-market listings. As your agent, I should inform you that you have first right of refusal, given your status as co-signer on the property. I watched my parents' faces as I answered. Yes, I'd like to make an offer. The full asking price, as discussed. Mom's hand flew to her throat. Dad's face drained of color. You planned this? He whispered. I thought of the separate savings account I'd maintained for 7 years. Of the property assessments I'd quietly gathered. Of grandmother's voice in my head. Asterisk, sometimes the biggest act of love is letting people Face their choices. Asterisk, no, I said softly. I just stopped planning around everyone else's choices. They left without another word, the door closing with a quiet click that echoed with finality. Through the window, I watched them navigate the darkened path to their car, shoulders bent under the weight of consequences they never expected to bear. My phone lit up with another Instagram notification. I ignored it, opening instead the photo album on my phone. There was a picture from last summer, me on the lake house dock at sunrise, coffee mug in hand, watching the mist rise off the water. Soon, that view would be mine. Purchased not with manipulation or deceit, but with years of careful planning and the strength to finally say enough. I sent Tova a quick text. It's done. Her reply came immediately. You okay? I looked around my quiet house, feeling the unfamiliar lightness in my chest. For the first time in years, I could breathe without the weight of others' expectations pressing down. Yes, I typed back. I finally am. The intervention ambushes me between client meetings. Aunt Rachel intercepts me in the parking garage, her church lady's smile stretched too tight. Uncle Pete materializes from behind a concrete pillar. Even Cousin Mary, who hasn't spoken to me since I refused to invest in her essential oils business, appears with convenient timing. We're here because we love you, Rachel says, shepherding me toward the elevator. The conference room door opens to reveal the full arsenal of familial manipulation. Pastor Mike stands near the window, Bible conspicuously in hand. 3 sets of aunts and uncles occupy the chairs usually reserved for my investment clients. Mom and Dad anchor the head of the table, and on the oversized screen behind them, Shaylin's tear-streaked face fills the video feed. You're making a terrible mistake, Mom says, rising. We're your family. I remain in the doorway, briefcase steady in my grip. I have a closing in 40 minutes. The closing is exactly why we're here. Pastor Mike steps forward, his voice gentle with practiced concern. Your sister is stranded at the Panama Embassy. Your parents are facing financial ruin. Surely there's room for Christian forgiveness. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, Aunt Rachel quotes, reaching for my hand. I step back. Interesting choice. The full verse continues with kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Where was that compassion when you helped Shaylin pack for Panama? The room stills. Rachel's hand drops. I don't know what you're talking about, she stammers. I open my briefcase, removing a single photo. It shows Rachel's minivan in my parents' driveway, trunk open, loaded with suitcases. The timestamp matches their planned departure date. You drove them to the airport, I say quietly. Just like you drove Mom to the bank when she forged my signature on Shaylin's first car loan. Just like you helped Dad hide the paperwork when they borrowed against my college fund to cover Shaylin's credit card debt. That was different, Mom interjects. You were doing so well and Shaylin I needed parents, I cut in, not accountants searching for their next withdrawal. On screen, Shaylin's tears flow faster. Marin, please. I'm stuck here. They won't let me leave. Rory's accounts are frozen. You're destroying everything. No, I correct her. The SEC is investigating everything. There's a difference. Mom sways dramatically, collapsing into Dad's arms. I can't breathe, the stress, my heart. Your heart is fine, I say, checking my watch. Your blood pressure was perfect at your checkup last week. I have the insurance claim to prove it. A month later, the closing room at Davidson and Mark's Law feels colder than the air outside. Mom and Dad sit rigid beside their attorney. Shaylin's absence is marked by her power of attorney. Papers signed hurriedly at the embassy. Rory's lawyer attends by a phone, his client unavailable due to ongoing legal matters. I spread my documentation across the polished table. A decade of canceled checks, loan agreements, credit card statements. Each page represents a moment when family obligation trumped self-preservation. The final document is a simple spreadsheet of every dollar they've extracted. Every promise broken, every manipulation logged with accountant's precision. Jesus, Dad whispers, scanning the total. That's what the lake house is actually worth to me, I say. Every penny I've given, every debt I've covered, every family emergency I've solved. I'm not taking anything that wasn't already mine. The signing process feels endless. Each signature lands like a guillotine blade, severing old bonds. When Mom's hand shakes too badly to hold the pen, Dad steadies her wrist. Their attorney keeps his eyes fixed on the papers, his professional demeanor cracking only when he reaches the final page. This concludes the transfer of ownership, he announces. The property at 1847 Lakeside Drive now belongs solely to Maren Halstead. Dad's shoulders slump. We thought you were always so capable, so steady. We saw you as the solution, I finish. Not the daughter. You were always so perfect. Shaylin's voice crackles through the speakerphone. So easy to use. Everyone knew exactly which buttons to push. Mom's sob catches in her throat. Shaylin, don't. That ends today, I say. Standing. The keys feel heavy in my palm, worn brass, warming to my touch. I'll have the locks changed by sunset. The lake house stands silent when I arrive, autumn light painting the windows gold. I move through each room methodically, removing family photos from the walls, Mom and Dad at their anniversary party, Shaylin's graduation. The forced Christmas card poses that painted us as the perfect family. The last photo stops me, a candid shot from years ago. I'm teaching Shaylin to swim, her small hands gripping my arms, trust shining in her eyes, before the manipulation began. Before I became the family ATM instead of the family protector. The dock creaks under my feet as I walk to its edge, just as I did that morning last summer. The water reflects the setting sun, ripples catching fire. Behind me, the lake house windows darken one by one, shadows deepening in rooms that hold decades of memories. I pull out my phone, opening the family group chat that's been silent since the intervention. My thumbs hover over the keyboard, a lifetime of explanations and justifications rising to the surface. Instead, I type 7 words, I hope you find your way home. Then I delete the chat, slip the phone back into my pocket, and watch the sun sink below the tree line. The water laps gently at the dock posts, its rhythm steady and sure, like a heart finally beating for itself. A year later, the lake house windows catch the October sunrise differently now. Light streams through unobstructed glass, no longer filtered through heavy drapes chosen by my mother's decorator. The great room, once cluttered with antiques meant to impress weekend guests, breathes easier with clean lines and comfortable furniture, my choices. I curl into the window seat, a renovation edition that would have horrified Mom, and wrap my hands around a steaming mug. The satisfied loan statement hangs framed on the wall opposite, its final zero balance a daily reminder that some debts can be settled. Others, like the trust broken by family, require a different kind of accounting. Tell me about forgiveness, Dr. Chen says at our weekly session. Her office overlooks a Japanese garden, its careful arrangement of stones and water suggesting that even chaos can find order. I'm working on it, I say, watching a maple leaf spiral into the pond. Last week, I deleted 3 voicemails from Mom without listening to them. That feels like progress. And Shaylin, I trace the seam of the leather armchair. She sent another email. They're still in Panama. Rory's business opportunity fell through, and she needs money for plane tickets home. What did you do? I forwarded it to Tova. A smile tugs at my mouth. She replied with links to job boards in San Jose. Dr. Chen's pen pauses. That sounds like growth. It feels more like survival, I correct her. I straighten, meeting her gaze. I spent so long being the solution that I forgot how to just be the sister or the daughter. And now I'm learning to be Maren. The lake house project helps. Each weekend brings another transformation. Fresh paint covering, colonial blue walls, modern fixtures replacing Baroque monstrosities. Gardens simplified from moms. Overwhelming rose collection to native plants that thrive without constant attention. Like me. Tova. Brings housewarming gifts. Practical things like a toolkit and a wine opener, understanding that I'm building more than just a home. She comes for Sunday brunches, filling the space with real laughter. That doesn't hide agenda or leverage guilt. Your parents stopped by the office, she mentions one morning, watching me flip pancakes. They wanted to discuss options. The spatula doesn't shake in my hand. Progress. What kind? The usual. Reverse mortgage, loan restructuring. She sips her coffee. They're selling the country club membership. Dad must be devastated. The pancake lands perfectly centered on the plate. How's Mom taking it? Dramatically. Though her fainting spell didn't quite land with Davidson. He's seen too many performances. We share a knowing look. Mom's theatrical health crises always coincided with financial deadlines or uncomfortable conversations. I wonder if Dad still rushes to catch her. Or if he's tired of the show, too. The financial abuse support group meets monthly in the Lake House sunroom. 10 chairs arranged in a circle, no hierarchy, just shared understanding. Sometimes I speak, sometimes I just listen. Every story echoes familiar notes. The guilt. The manipulation. The moment they finally said no. My brother called me selfish, a young woman says, twisting her tissue. Said I was destroying the family by not co-signing his business loan. What did you tell him? I ask. That he was right. She lifts her chin. I am being selfish. I'm finally putting myself first. The room fills with nodding heads and murmurs of recognition. I think of Shaylin's tear-streaked accusations, Mom's performance in the conference room, Dad's heavy silence. Sometimes selfish is the only way to survive. The podcast grows naturally from these meetings. Breaking free, conversations about financial family ties launches with my story, then branches into others. Each episode ends with resources, warning signs, escape strategies. The comments fill with solidarity and shared pain. This was my mother. I thought I was alone. How do I start? Tova organizes the first lakeside gathering, carefully curating the guest list. No family, no pressure, just friends who've earned their place. We grill on the deck, watch the sunset paint the water, share stories that don't demand anything in return. To Marin, Tova raises her glass, who taught us all that some bridges are meant to burn. The toast ripples around the circle, genuine warmth, replacing the artificial cheer of forced family functions. These people choose to be here. They stay because they want to, not because blood demands it. My phone buzzes as the last guest leaves. Shaylin's number, no longer sending my heart racing with panic. I let it ring twice before answering. Hi, Shay. Marin. Her voice sounds older, stripped of its practiced helplessness. I found a job, teaching English at a resort. That's good. Yeah. Pause. I'm not calling for money. I know. Because this time she's speaking to me, not my wallet. I miss you. Simple words, complex meaning. I miss who we were, too. Before the manipulation, before I became the family bank, before trust crumbled like the shoreline after a storm. But I don't miss who we became. The silence stretches between us, heavy with unspoken apologies and accusations. Finally, she sighs. I understand. I don't like it, but I understand. That's a start. After we hang up, I walk to the dock. The setting sun gilds the water, just like that day last year, when I claimed my freedom. But tonight, the lake house windows behind me glow with warm thoughts. Truly mine. No guilt dims the light, no obligation shadows the doorway. I open my journal, another suggestion from Dr. Chin, and write the date. Below it, 3 words. I choose peace. Some debts can never be repaid. The trust broken, the years spent serving as an unwilling safety net, the childhood sacrificed to adult responsibilities. But standing here, watching darkness settle over my reclaimed sanctuary, I know that some freedom is worth any price. The water laps at the dock posts. Its rhythm steady and sure, like a heart finally beating for itself, like a woman finally living her own life. The lake house lights guide me home.